19 chairs, 74 eyes, one summer noon, and a $640,000 promise hanging like bait. My son lifts my shell compass between two fingers, grinning for our extended family as if he's won already, while the sea breeze threads the open window, and the attorney clears his throat to begin the inheritance reading. And I count backward from 10, because in exactly 10 seconds, something small and mechanical will click, and the room will tilt toward me. That morning at the beachfront cottage, I brewed coffee that tasted of salt and metal, the kettle whistling against the hush of the tide. The shell compass lay on the teak table, warm from the sun. Beside it, a red file folder labeled Property Grab, edges feathered, corners squared. The note inside read, Recorder's Office, Window 19, Ticket 74, Instrument 500,000, 12:02 p.m. The air moved through cedar screens like a slow metronome. I timed my heartbeat by it. My phone buzzed once. Sarah from the recorder's office spoke low, clipped. Instrument stamped at 12:02. Audio request queued. You'll have what you need. I watched the compass lid stutter, then settle. The sea breeze salted my tone. And the witness? I asked. On their way, she said, and cut the line. Outside, a gull traced a figure 8, stitching sky to water. I slid the red folder under the old blueprints I still keep to steady my hands. Stephen arrived without knocking, sunburned and loud, trailing cologne and entitlement. You ready to be reasonable, Dad? He said, peering at the compass. Cute trinket. We'll put it on a shelf when we redo the place. He ran his palm along the window frame as if pricing it. Market's hot. Appraisal was clean. I kept my voice level. Coffee? He waved it off and pointed at the folder. What's that? Old drawings, I said. He smirked. Old everything. His wife hovered in the doorway, sunglasses on indoors. We should go, she said, tapping her phone. Randall starts on time. Stephen slipped the compass back on the table with 2 fingers, as if it might stain him. Try not to make a scene, he said. Just sign where he says. The sea breeze pressed the screen, lifting the corner of a blueprint. Under it, the red tab of Property Grab peered out like a tongue. I let it show. Randall's office sat above the marina, salt on the steps, brass numbers polished by rain. Inside, the room was cool and too bright, law books stacked like breakwaters. Extended family filled the chairs, whispering. The hum of the air conditioner fought the soft roar of the tide. I took the end seat, compass in my palm. It'd seem a thin, cold line. Stephen chose the center, legs wide, smile wider. Shall we? He said, as if he owned the clock. Before we begin, Stephen said, standing. Dad wanted me to let everyone know he's stepping back. Things are complicated at his age. Laughter moved like a wave. We've arranged a plan, he added, tapping a stack of papers. It's best for him. My daughter-in-law's lips made a straight red mark. Care home has a sea view, she murmured to a cousin. I rolled the compass lid between thumb and forefinger. The click was soft, but I saw 3 heads turn. I kept my eyes on the marled desktop, counting thread lines. You rehearse this, I said, not loud enough to be rude, just loud enough to be heard. Stephen grinned. We practiced transparency. He touched his pocket where a pen waited. Signatures are just logistics. I felt the sea breeze push against the closed window, a breath unable to enter. My shell compass, painted in faithful, tipped in my palm, its needle quivering north. It steadied me, as she once did. Randall cleared his throat. We'll proceed with the will. His voice had the dry patience of sand. He began dates, March 12, 2019. Amendments, October 3, 2021. Numbers made a quiet fence. Stephen slid a glossy appraisal across 2 laps. $640,000. If we'll move fast, he whispered to his wife. She widened her eyes theatrically. Imagine Christmas. I set a small white envelope on my knee. The corner marked, Window 19. Ticket 74. Instrument 500,000. The ink had bled salt. Stephen lifted his voice. Dad loved the cottage, but he loves family more. Right, Dad? The room angled toward me. He held up a printed power of attorney he claimed I'd signed. The notary seal smudged like a thumbprint in rain. One signature, and we can unburden him. Murmurs. Someone clapped once, uncertain. I tasted iron. I don't recall that afternoon, I said. I do, he answered, smile tight. We took care of things, like you asked. The sea breeze found a crack and moved through the blinds in soft ribs of light. Randall, I said, may I ask one preamble question? He inclined his head, briefly. I held up the compass. Who in this room knows what this is worth? Stephen rolled his eyes. A trinket. A compass, said an aunt, kindly. I closed my hand around the shell. It points somewhere specific today. The lid clicked again, a metronome with a courtroom's patience. We're losing time, Stephen said. Dad promised this would be simple. He slid a page to Randall. He signed here. I watched Randall's eyes narrow over the seal. Curious notary block, he said mildly. Quite faded for last winter. Stephen kept his smile, but it needed effort. His wife checked her watch. We have an appointment at 2, she said to no one. I set the white envelope on the desk, not opening it. The air-conditioned hum grew colder. I remembered the recorder's office hallway. Cool marble, fluorescent buzz. Window 19, where Sarah leaned forward and said, almost inaudible, listen. They swapped page 2 on a quitclaim template. Look at the font weight. Ticket 74, crumpled in my fist. Instrument 500,000, stamped, black and decisive. I had turned and seen Stephen on his phone, whispering besides the stairwell. Make it look old, he said. Dad can't tell the difference. The echo promised triumph, but that was only half the truth. The compass lid ticked once more. Dad, Stephen said, you know this is best. You get care. We keep the house safe. Safe for whom? I asked. He laughed, bright and brittle. Everyone wins. The attorney's pen hovered above the page like a gull over bait. The sea breeze lifted the edge of Randall's tie and weighed it down again. Proceed, Randall said cautiously. I noted the time, 12:15 p.m. I had 5 minutes to keep the tide where it belonged. Cousin leaned in. You'll love the place they found, he stage whispered, near the water. Friendly staff. My daughter-in-law added. They said he gets disoriented in heat. Stephen placed the pen in my hand. Dad, sign. The plastic felt greasy. Funny thing about instruments, I said. They play differently in the wind. He smiled without humor. We're indoors. I let the pen rest on the page and listened for the smallest sound. The compass lid answered with a patient click. The attorney began to read the bequests. Jewelry here. A painting there. Debts enumerated dryly. Stephen's name arrived like a drum hit. He straightened, elbows broad. As primary beneficiary, my son Stephen. Randall paused, glanced at the questionable notary seal, and continued. My extended family leaned forward as one organism. Outside, halyards rang against masts in a slow discord. The sea breeze pushed through the vents with a ghost of salt, and the room tasted like pennies and rain. Dad made me executor, for a reason, Stephen announced, as if narrating a slideshow. He built structures. I build futures. He patted my shoulder. Trust me. I moved my hand and the compass flashed a pale oval of light on the ceiling. Trust requires bearings, I said. He sighed. Here we go. My daughter-in-law laughed. He's poetic today. I folded the white envelope once, twice, until it fit behind the compass. Some bearings are recorded, I said. Some are witnessed. Yesterday, the overheard words outside window 19 were damp and precise. Swap page 2, rescan at low DPI, push the recording date back. A man cleared his throat and said, make it look like March 2019. Stephen replied, Dad won't check. He's sentimental. Ticket 74 rasped under my thumb. The stamp read Instrument 5000, fresh as a bruise. I stood at the stairwell's bend out of their sight, the sea breeze pushing the vestibule door and returning each whisper to me, obediently. Back in the office, Randall lifted the questionable page again. Who notarized this? He asked. Stephen's mouth moved, but the name arrived late. Corley. Spelled with an E or an A? Randall's pen did not touch paper. E, Stephen said. You said A yesterday, his wife murmured. The room registered the seam. I set the compass on the desk, and it made a hollow shell sound. The sea breeze found it, cool air slipping into the empty curve. I'd like to lodge an objection to that document, I said. Stephen laughed too loudly. Objection? This isn't court, Dad. That's a relief, I answered. Courts are crowded. Randall's brows made a roof. On what basis? Temporal inconsistency, I said, and font weight. Laughter again, but different now. Also, I added, a witness is on their way. A hush slotted into place. Stephen's tongue touched his upper lip. Witness to what? To your rehearsal, I said. At the recorder's office, the sea breeze lifted a paper corner and laid it down like a tired hand. Stephen straightened. We're wasting time. Read the rest. His wife crossed her legs sharply, heel ticking against the chair rung. He's confused, she said to the row behind her. A cousin whispered, Poor man. I let the pity pass me like cold smoke. The compass lid clicked again. Steady. I thought of a summer years ago, a hand on my shoulder, and the shoreline, holding. Edward, Randall said carefully, if there is a witness, we will hear them when they arrive. For now, let's continue. He turned a page. Stephen's jaw worked. Fine, just keep it moving. He leaned toward me. This could be clean or messy. Make it clean. Messy is your specialty, I said softly. He flinched, then recovered. Everyone knows you're not yourself in heat. Let us help. The air felt cooler suddenly, as if the room had reconsidered my temperature. I glanced at the marina. A man in a navy jacket stopped at the glass door, a hand shading his eyes. He checked his phone, then the plaque, then stepped back. The sea breeze pressed his jacket flat, then released it. My phone pulsed once. Arrived. I did not move. It's a beautiful noon, I said. Perfect for surprises. Stephen smiled without teeth. You brought a circus? Fine, let them juggle. He tapped the ghost notary seal, daring it to hold. My extended family adjusted their weight, as if bracing for weather. Who is it? Someone asked. A neighbor? Stephen's wife whispered something I couldn't catch, and then smiled at me like a patient nurse. Do you need water? She asked. No, I said. I need time. We gave you years, Stephen replied. Now, give us signatures. The compass needle swung a hair and settled north. The shell felt heavier, as if the sea breeze had pulled inside it and stayed. I placed the red folder labeled Property Grab on Randall's desk, square to the edge, and set the white envelope on top of it, like a plumb bob. Let's align the drawings, I said, voice even. Halyards rang outside, an arrhythmic bell choir. The man in the navy jacket opened the door. Salt lifted into the room and drifted across the law books. Stephen's pen hovered. My compass lid clicked one last time, and the sound was louder than it should have been. The man in the navy jacket stepped fully inside and removed a leather-bound ledger from a canvas bag. Daniel Corley, he said, voice like rope dragging a cleat. Notary public. Stephen's smile thinned at the edges. Corley nodded at a questionable page. That seal is not mine. My journal has no entry for your father on March 12, 2019, nor October 3, 2021. The sea breeze lifted the law firm's brochure stack, then let them fall with a damp whisper. Stephen spread his hands. Clerical lag. Were you the mobile notary that day? Corley turned a brass pen between his fingers. Then they forged my name. Randall gestured toward the ledger. May I? Corley opened to a page edged with salt and ink. Clean lines. Numbered rows. No gaps. Your seal? Randall asked. Slight tilt to the right every time, Corley said. The impression there tilts left. Stephen laughed too high. Details bore me. Details decide deeds, I answered. Corley placed a small drive on the desk. Security footage request filed. Recorder's cameras face window 19 and the stairwell. My request is pending, but I'd printed the request acknowledgement. He slid a slip stamped 12:06 p.m. under Randall's nose. Sarah helped, he added. At her name, Stephen blinked, a muscle in his cheek committing treason. The air conditioner rattled once, then steadied. My shell compass rested on the wood, cool as a coin between tides, its hinge breathing patience. Stephen leaned forward. Enough theatrics, read the will. Gad wants this simple. He told me last week. He looked at me as if hypnotizing a horse. Tell him. I felt the room tilt toward his certainty. Randall rubbed the edge of the page with his thumb, the sound dry as driftwood. We can proceed, he said, but with extreme caution. Stephen's wife exhaled sharply. We have a design consult at 2, she said. He'll map after. Everyone wins. A heat mirage shimmered over the marina. Salt carried through the vents, a thin medicinal taste. Everyone does not win, I said. Not with counterfeits. Stephen smiled like a man showing teeth to a small dog. You forget things, Dad. I glanced at the compass and felt the slight ridge in its lid where a thumb wears truth in the metal. Gloria used to rub that ridge with her knuckle when storms lined the horizon. A quiet superstition she never named. Corley closed his ledger. I can swear to my journal and my seal. I cannot swear to what happened at window 19. He looked toward the door, but others can. Stephen tapped the table with his pen. A woodpecker hunting rot. You've wasted enough of our time, he said. Dad, you said the cottage overwhelms you now. Randall interlaced his fingers. Mr. Corley, leave your affidavit. We'll attach it provisionally. The affidavit lay like a sandbag against a rising tide. My phone pulsed in my pocket. A single line from Sarah. 5 minutes. I slid the screen dark. Stephen watched the gesture, eyes quick and hungry. He's calling in favors, he murmured to his wife. She smiled without reaching her eyes. Favors won't change signatures. The sea breeze found the window seam again and threaded a cool ribbon across my wrists. Relief touched me, then withdrew. I had evidence and a name, but that was only half the truth. Stephen set a crisp receipt on the desk. Deposit paid, he announced. Care home, Seaview, Monday move-in. A cousin said, That's fast. Stephen's voice warmed. We move fast. The market won't wait. My daughter-in-law placed a brochure in my lap. A staged sunset over staged residence. You'll have activities, she said. Watercolor, bocce. I stood the brochure on its edge, watching it sway in the sea breeze that had somehow made it into the sealed room. Randall lifted a palm. Given affidavit conflict and a pending witness, I recommend we refrain from executing any transfers or signing powers. We'll hear the will but not trigger dispositions. Stephen's jaw nodded. You're the attorney, not the judge. Today I am the weather vane, Randall said, surprisingly dry. I point where facts blow. Stephen's wife leaned into him. We can still push, she whispered, careless of the row behind her. A cousin checked the time and coughed politely. I turned the compass once and set it down. The shell ticked against the wood, a soft hollow like tapping a rib. Proceed, I said. Randall read on, his cadence even, the words dry rope over wet pilings. As he reached the section naming an executor, Stephen sat taller, light pooling on his forehead. Sweat gathered despite the air conditioner. The sea breeze flirted with the blinds, then gave up. Behind the glass, gulls fell and clawed their way back up. Footsteps in the hall, an office murmur shifting pitch. The door opened. Sarah stood there, hair pinned against the weather, a small recorder in her fist and a man with a clipboard behind her. Window 19, recorder's office, she said, without greeting. Stephen's smile froze, then thawed badly. We're in a private meeting, he told the air. So is the recorder's lobby, Sarah answered. The man with her lifted a badge that reflected light like a blade, and then put it away. Sarah crossed to the desk and set the recorder down beside the affidavit. Chain of custody begins now, she said. Audio captured yesterday at 11:58 a.m., stairwell nearest window 19. She glanced at me just once, then at Randall. Play it. Stephen barked a laugh. This is farce. It's time-stamped, Sarah replied. The room settled into stillness, except for the air conditioner's small lungs. I kept a finger on the compass lid, feeling its living hinge. Ready for whatever cut next. Randall pressed play. A rustle, a throat queer, and then Stephen's voice, thin but unmistakable. Swap page 2, rescan low DPI, push the date back. Another voice responded, make it look like March 2019. Stephen again. Dad won't check. He's sentimental. A chair creaked as someone shifted in the recording. Then the stairwell door opened and closed, and the clip ended. No commentary. No music. The sea breeze slipped a cool coin across my neck. No one exhaled for 3 seconds. Stephen broke the silence. I was rehearsing worst-case scenarios with a consultant, not instructions. Out of context, anything sounds sinister. He softened his voice. Dad, you mix up dates all the time. Sarah looked to Randall. Audio remains on the device. I'll file the certified copy with the instrument number when the request completes. Corley nodded once, a lighthouse keeper acknowledging weather. The seal is wrong. The journal is clean. The audio says what it says. Randall closed the will and placed both palms flat. Given these anomalies, I propose we inspect the asset at stake to ascertain whether any original title documents exist. Some clients keep critical records on site. He looked at me. Do you retain originals at the cottage? Some, I said. Stephen snorted. Whatever he has is outdated. We updated him. My daughter-in-law smiled as if easing a child toward bed. Fresh air will help, she said. He meags the sea breeze. The party broke with chair scrapes and soft curses. Outside, Heat stood on the dock like a man refusing to move. Halyards pinged the lazy code. We walked in a frail parade to the cars, the compass in my pocket, a weight as old as marriage. Stephen spoke by the door, voice compressed between teeth. Damage control, he told his wife. Narrative management. She nodded briskly. Smile. Hold shoulders. He hates scenes. The marina's tar smell wove a black ribbon through salt. At the beachfront cottage, the veranda shaded teak and old cushions. The sea breeze finally arrived honest in full, rinsing the office air from our lungs. We'll gather out here, Randall said, claiming the table as if it were a lectern. Families spread along the rail, whispering. Stephen stood inside the doorway, backlit, a man auditioning for a better role. I set the red folder, marked property grab in the center, and placed the shell compass on top, hinged toward him. Let's start with bearings, I said. No more fog. Stephen rolled his neck. Hurry this up. Sarah positioned herself by Randall, the recorder in plain view. Corley leaned on the rail, ledger folded against his ribs. The veranda boards radiated noon heat through my soles. I slid a blueprint aside to reveal a faint pencil cross I'd scribed years ago to register sun angles. The compass lid clicked. The needle steadied over that cross, as if remembering a promise. I lifted the compass, thumbed the worn ridge, and pressed the inset catch only I knew. The lid rose farther than usual, exposing a shallow recess meant for an obsolete sailor's chart chip. Inside lay a wafer-thin card. It records 12 hours when armed, I said quietly. Old survey habit. Stephen laughed like a door hitting a stop. You bugged us? I documented my days, I replied. The sea breeze slid under the lid and hummed against the hidden chamber's lip. I set the tiny card beside Sarah's recorder. Yesterday, 11:55 to 12:07, I said. Different angle, same stairwell. Stephen's face adopted concern the way a snake adopts shade. Illegal surveillance, he hissed. Public lobby, Sarah answered. Your consultant will love discovery. Randall lifted 2 fingers. We're not in court, but facts will find their way there if needed. My daughter-in-law shook her head slowly. You're vindictive, Edward. I am exact, I said, and the sea breeze agreed by moving everything 1 inch. Sarah played the compass audio. My own footsteps counted 4, then stopped. Stephen's voice again. Push instrument now. He'll sign after lunch. Another man. Instrument number hits 500,000 today. Stephen. Perfect. Then we motivate him. I'll pause. We might have to embarrass him in front of family. The clip ended, thinner than the room felt. Someone whispered, motivate. A gull's shadow crossed the veranda, a violent geometry that dissolved on teak. Stephen stared at his shoes, as if they had betrayed him. Stephen moved suddenly, fast and sloppy, reaching for the compass. Corley stepped between us with the casual certainty of a sailor catching a halyard. No, he said, not your property. Randall's hand flattened over the card. And not today's leverage, he added. Stephen pulled back, breathing through his mouth. He's frail. He's precise, Sarah said. My daughter-in-law raised her phone like a periscope. We're leaving, she declared. Without a signature? Randy asked. Her smile reappeared. We have contingencies. Stephen found his confidence again. like a coin under a chair. "You're all late," he said. "Deed is already moved." Seawall Holdings, LLC, recorder stamped at 11:50 a.m. He showed a notification on his phone, a screenshot bright as a flare. "We were ahead of you." A pressure band cinched around my ribs. For a moment, the veranda tilted. Board sliding, sea breeze failing. "So you confessed executing documents before the will reading," Randall said. "Brave or foolish?" Murmurs widened into low consternation. A cousin rubbed his temples. "If it's already recorded, what now?" My daughter-in-law brightened with terrible relief. "Now we accept what is." Stephen faced me, pity varnished over triumph. "Dad, it's done. This is better for everyone." The sun pressed heat into my scalp. The shell compass felt heavier than brass. I imagined it as a small moon dragging tides. "You're certain of your timestamps?" I asked. "Immovably certain," Stephen said, and grinned. Sarah's phone chimed. She didn't look at it. "Recorder's queue will release footage at 2 p.m., she said to Randall. Corley checked his watch. "Hour and change. Then we use what we have," I said. I slid the property grad folder open and laid out copies of emails, calendar invites, and a printout with window 19, ticket 74, instrument 5000 highlighted. "We document pattern and sequence." Stephen laughed softly. "Pattern all you like," he said. "Sequence already buried you." On. I pointed at Stephen's screenshot. "That says received 11:50, not recorded." He blinked like a swimmer hit by a wave. Sarah laid a trifold printout beside it, a simple ladder of times. "Recorder assigns priority when an instrument number is stamped," she said. "Queue order matters, not arrival theatrics." Stephen's wife scoffed. "A distinction without a difference." Sarah didn't flinch. "It's the only difference that counts." The sea breeze moved the edges of every paper, as if underlining nouns, one by one. Randall touched the white envelope I'd carried all morning. "What exactly did you record at 12:02? I slid out the certified copy, the blue ribbon cool as a vein. "Revocation of power of attorney," I said, "and a preservation affidavit." Stephen barked a laugh. "Too late." Sarah shook her head once. "If his revocation stamps before your deed stamps, your deed dies on arrival." Corley added, "And if you forge my seal at any stage, it dies twice." The veranda boards creaked approval. I placed the second document on the teak. Enhanced Life Estate Deed, recorded October 3, 2021. Clause 9. No transfer of the cottage valid without my personal wet signature. Any conveyance by agent, entity, or LLC triggers reversion to the Edward and Gloria Trust. Stephen stared at the paragraph as if it were a snake coiled in legal print. Randall traced the clause with a finger. "Fee simple, subject to conditions subsequent," he murmured. "Right of re-entry preserved." The sea breeze tasted suddenly sweet. Stephen tried for charm and missed. "Dad, we're family." He tapped the page and smiled at the cousins. He didn't understand what he signed in 2021. Corley coughed into his fist. He understood enough to find a notary who writes straight. Sarah angled the recorder toward him. "And enough to revoke you before lunch." A gull shrieked like a hinge. My daughter-in-law pressed her phone to her chest. "We have a consult at 2. Randall replied, "You'll want to keep that slot open." I lifted the compass and let the hinge breathe. "Your consultant rehearsed forgery in a stairwell," I said. "That's elder abuse if we spell it correctly." Sarah nodded. "Recorder flags suspicious sequences to the Elder Justice Task Force when an affidavit lands first." Stephen's jaw moved, counting options that kept falling through. I felt heat lift off the rail, met by a cool runnel of air that threaded my sleeve. "But that was only half the truth," I said, and waited. Stephen recovered a little swagger. "We already paid the deposit," he said, setting the care home receipt where all could see the figure. $15,000. "Sunk cost," someone murmured. He turned it toward me like a threat wrapped as help. "It's non-refundable." I slid the receipt back with one finger. "Then it is yours." The sea breeze lifted the corners of the brochures. So their staged sunsets became waves. My compass needle steadied, as if a magnet had finally stopped lying. Randall reopened the will, where a paperclip gleamed like a small blade. There is, however, a no-contest clause, he said, voice level. Any heir who attempts to transfer or encumber the cottage without the testator's consent before the reading forfeits inheritance. Page 7. Stephen's laugh failed to clear the rail. You're stretching. Corley tapped the affidavit with his brass pen. Stretch less. That clause is tight as a drum. The cousins leaned in, as if the tide had just reversed, mid-bay. My daughter-in-law tried a new tone, amber and slow. We can still be a team, Edward. Let's withdraw these filings and clean the slate. Her eyes skipped to the recorder, then away. You're overheard in a stairwell, I said, not unkindly. Slates, remember. Sarah checked her watch. 1:38 p.m. The number held like a nail in wood. Heat gathered on the roof shingles, popping resin. The veranda smelled briefly of pitch and childhood. Then the sea rinsed it back to salt. A ping from Sarah's phone. She glanced, then looked at Randall. Recorder advanced our request. Footage released authorized early due to conflicting seals. She placed a tablet on the table. Screen dim in sun. Window 19, yesterday, 11:58 a.m. Stephen reached, stopped, reconsidered. Corley cupped his ledger like a life ring. Randall shaded the screen with a legal pad. The quip opened on a stairwell's beige honesty. Air hummed. Two men entered, faces angled down, their voices grabbing at the walls. We all listened to Stephen instruct a ghost. Swap page 2, low DPI, backdate to March 2019, push instrument before lunch. The second man answered with a number we had already worn into the table. 500,000 hits today. A pause, then Stephen again. We motivate him in the room. The clip ended with a soft door hiss. The veranda heard only wind and rigging. Someone said, "Oh." My daughter-in-law steadied herself on the rail as if the ocean had lurched. Randall's tone changed, small and formal. Mr. Corley, will you sign a complaint regarding the misuse of your seal? Yes, Corley said. Twice if needed. Sarah, Randall added, prepare a notice of condition broken and demand to vacate instrument, referencing the 2021 deed clause and today's 1202 filings. She was already typing, fingers exact, the recorder like a second pulse on the table. Stephen stared beyond us at whitecaps that refused to understand him. The sea breeze salted the back of my tongue. Stephen tried one last bluff. The LLC is clean. Seawall Holdings is insulated. I slid a printed page beside his phone, the state registry stamp, heavy as an anchor. Reserve name filed April 14th. Manager Edward Hale. Articles lodged May 2nd. You moved nothing I don't hold. He swallowed, then tried a weak grin. You planned this. You rehearsed me first, I said. The compass lid clicked in soft time with his breath. The veranda shade cooled a degree, as if weather had chosen sides. Sarah turned the tablet so he could see a second email, subject line unadorned. Elder exploitation referral initiated. You can contest facts, she said. You cannot contest clocks. Stephen's wife touched his forearm. Call your consultant, she whispered. He didn't move. Corley stepped closer and set his ledger down. There's a clean way out, he said. Rescind and disclaim. Keep your name out of the wrong caption. Randall nodded. Sign here and we keep this in the family room, not the courtroom. He looked at the cousins, hunting for a face that would co-sign bad weather. No one lifted a hand. The halyards rang a single high note and fell silent. You can't kick me out of my father's house, he said, voice pitched toward pity. I nodded at the deed clause. You tried to kick me out of mine. His shoulders lowered 1 precise inch. Between boards, a splinter caught light like a fin blade. The sea breeze pressed against the rails, steady, patient. Sure. Randall arranged 3 sheets. Rescission, disclaimer, and the notice that would skate to the recorder ahead of any pending instrument. Timestamps, he said, like a doctor saying, stitches. Sarah held her notary stamp over the margin. Corley set his ledger open to today. Stephen read nothing. You'll ruin Christmas, he said to no one. You ruin noon, a cousin answered, unexpectedly. My daughter-in-law exhaled, long and thin. Sign, Stephen. He didn't move. The compass needle steadied, as if peering down a plumb line. He tried anger next. If I don't sign, what then? Then we record without you, Randall said. Affidavit of condition broken. Complaint on misuse of notarial seal. No contest invocation. Title company freeze. Sarah added, and a hold on any wire touching Seawall Holdings until the examiner stopped blinking. The veranda seemed to widen, the ocean stepping half an inch closer. I watched him calculate and run out of chalkboard. My hand rested on the compass lid, feeling its faint engine of clicks. He bent finally and scratched his name where the rescission waited. Sarah stamped, efficient and cold. He signed the disclaimer, smaller this time, a name shrinking inside its own outline. Corley witnessed, with a stroke that didn't wobble. Randall stacked the pages like planks and capped them with the preservation affidavit. We walk these to the clerk now, he said. Stephen sat back, drained of color. You staged this, he repeated softly. No, I said. You staged me. I corrected the lighting. The cousins drifted toward the steps, whispering about numbers they would now remember forever. 19, 74, 500,000, 1202. I pocketed the compass and felt its small weight fit my palm, the way it did the year we mapped the rafters, and she told me storms end eventually. That was the last time I said her name aloud, and I didn't say it now. The sea breeze moved to the screens and took a little of the heat with perfect, merciless manners. Sarah slid the stack into a red string envelope, then replaced it with the property-grabbed folder on top, as if labeling the weather we just survived. We'll file immediately, she said. Instrument number on text, bank on copy. Corley clicked his pen once. Randall turned to me, pen held not like a weapon, but a tool he trusted. Mr. Hale, your signature affirms re-entry. The halyards rang again, bright this time, as if the marina had decided to keep time for us. I signed, slow and exact, and slid the pages to Sarah. She pressed the stamp until the ink bit. Randall lifted the envelope, tucked it under his arm, and stepped off the veranda. Stephen reached as if to take air back from my lungs, and found none to hold. I closed the shell compass, the hinge giving its patient click, and turned toward the door.